Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of the We Women project. Today, I'm in the august company of mother achievers who took on their life challenges and made it larger causes to serve. So very, very privileged to be in the company of mothers who have moved mountains.
Autism, as you will know, from 1 in 120 when my son was diagnosed, today it is 1 in 36. That effectively means 1 in every classroom.
Like there was a moment where I just blanked out, and of course there was tears and all of that. But then we also said we have to celebrate this baby. This baby is going to be loved 110%.
Yeah, the idea was really to address the concern of people with disabilities sometimes not having the same social opportunities as people without disabilities.
In India, unfortunately, we still don't have newborn hearing screening like in the developed countries. Abroad, children are screened at day 1 or within the first week.
I feel we need to have a very strong community of mothers or families who are going through this journey.
I think one common thread in the discussion today is, how each of you have navigated from this is a personal journey, I have to solve this personal problem, for it to making it a larger cause and deciding to give back. And I would really like to understand from each of you how that transition happened. Hi, and welcome to Season 2 of the We Women project, an initiative that focuses on helping women navigate through work and life. We're so honored and delighted to start Season 2 with very, very special episode, which we would like to call Mothers Who Have Moved Mountains. Motherhood is messy. A decision to have a baby, to not have one, or to try to have one, all bring with it emotions that we have never experienced before. And the responsibility that comes with bringing a human into this world changes our life perspectives forever. Today, I'm in the august company of mother achievers who took on their life challenges and made it larger causes to serve. I'm so humbled by the work that they do and the human beings that they are. So very, very privileged to be in the company of mothers who have moved mountains. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for being part of this panel discussion today. So very quickly, we'll try and go around with each one of you on what is the one value that has shaped your motherhood journey. Nameeta?
Yes. Thank you for that introduction, Vilasini. That was very nice of you. The one value I think that has shaped my motherhood journey is looking within. I think it was very important for me as a mom who was now going to welcome a baby who was additional needs. I think I needed to take that journey from look inside and start working on myself to be able to then help the baby. And of course, I had a 2-year-old son as well. So in order to be able to support both my children, I think that's the most important thing that motherhood has given me, is constant work on myself, which then gets reflected onto the way me and my husband parent our children. Beautiful. So it's that more than anything else.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Nameeta. Monisha?
So for me, I don't know whether I would call it a value, but I would say very early on, the decision to enjoy my child was a big one for us. Again, we had a child who was diagnosed at birth with Down syndrome, and everything sort of seems very scary and intimidating at that point. But I think we very quickly realized that, here was a baby. We just wanted to enjoy him, and he kind of, has proved to be
such a joy.
Yeah. And I think that focus on just making sure that it was not going to be doom and gloom. We were going to just have fun as a family and do everything that we had planned to do irrespective of what his diagnosis was.
I think that's so strong. Thanks. Thank you, Nisha. Yeah, Ritu.
Yeah, for me, that one value is empathy, I feel. When my son was growing up and he had additional needs, I could feel how isolated, how bullied he was. And I always looked at other children and with additional needs, and that empathy, the empathizing with those moms and their journey, that was the biggest thing that shaped my motherhood journey. It all began with empathizing with all others, even those without any special needs.
Right,
Everybody
just the
is struggling.
journey itself,
Everybody
everybody
is
is
struggling. So just empathize with what they are going through in their lives, and that is the biggest strength I have learned in this journey. This is
Sudha.
I mean, I was just listening and I was thinking, which is the high priority, which is the one I did the most. I think it was patience. Patience for me was probably the key driver in whatever I have done. I was not a very patient person. I should first tell you that. I always multitasked in my life, and I used to feel proud in having a very long list of things to do always. And then I realized squeezing myself out is not going to work when you have a child who wants you to be slow. So changing myself into a very patient person took time, effort, and that's part of what we teach in ASD Buddy also. You have to be patient, and through that you learn to be more mindful. You observe more, you become more mindful, and that's how the autism remediation, we see it happening in ASD Buddy. So patience, for me it is definitely patience. It's something I learned. So
Thank you, Sudha.
So I think for me, it's a couple of values, not just one. I think it started with acceptance, compassion, I would say, towards compassion and empathy, towards my son and towards other families that I was meeting through the journey. And I think the most value that I hold on to is determination. I think for me, that is something which I feel comes out strongest. The determination to make it happen for him, the determination to make it happen for other families as well.
Right. Thank you. And, if we could just talk about each of your ventures, maybe just a one-liner to just introduce yourselves, and then we can go ahead with the conversation. I have no particular order. You can choose whoever wants to go first. So that you want to start?
Okay, sure. So I'm the founder director of ASD Buddy. It is an autism education app. Okay, the intent is to educate parents and professionals in whatever is the latest methodologies in autism remediation, and ensure that no family is left without correct information and latest information. And of course, just information is not sufficient because it's available in plenty in the internet. So what we have focused more heavily is on practical training and supervision as well. So that's what we do through ASD Buddy. And go ahead, have a look at it, and do give us your feedback.
Great. Yeah, Nameeta.
Okay. I'm the founder of Samsara Pedia Care. We make bottles for babies who are born with a cleft lip and palate. Typically, these babies are unable to successfully breastfeed because of the lack of anatomy, the oral anatomy. And what the bottle essentially does is it gives the control of the pace of feeding into the hands of the caregiver, which could be the mother or the father who's feeding the baby, as opposed to traditionally these babies were fed with a bondla or a vati chammach, paladai. And we decided to come up with something that will support the babies from birth through their surgeries, because there are 2 milestone surgeries that happen, and within the first year of the baby's life. And the bottle supports them right after surgery as well. Yes, up until their palate repair is complete and the anatomy is complete, and then the babies can transition to feeding like
Through a
any other-
regular-
through a
through a
regular
regular
mode of
mode. Phenomenal.
So yes, the feeder is called Boond, and
Wonderful.
So I am the co-founder, along with my partner Gopika, of an app. It's called Buddy App Network, and it is a social app primarily for people with disabilities to make social connections. It's an inclusive and accessible app that allows people to meet people who they may not have met, organically in their own, social circles. It is open to people without disabilities as well. So yeah, that's what it is.
Thank you so much.
And
Manisha.
yeah, the idea was really to address the concern of people with disabilities sometimes not having the same social opportunities as people without disabilities. So to give them a platform where they could meet each other and meet people with shared
Interests
and life experiences.
Mhm. Thank you. And you're also expanding it for them to find a life partner on the app.
That's our next update.
Next update.
That's going to be coming up soon. Yeah.
Great. Good luck on that.
Yeah, so I am founder and director of Special Hangout. It is again, a physical meetup thing where we meet twice a week with people with disabilities and their families. Basically, we want to make the community stronger, and also these children and even grown-up adults to find more friends and more places to go and enjoy. Let it be like how anybody else has so many parties and so many other events to attend. So we basically organize inclusive celebrations and inclusive events. We do it a lot in collaboration with other NGOs also, and we are supporting more than 400 families now.
Wow, great. Thank you so much, Ritu, for joining us.
I am the founder and principal consultant of Integrated. Integrated is a center for speech and hearing for adults and children. We do all the testing starting from newborn hearing screening to fitting of hearing aids, cochlear implants, therapy for children and adults. We've also organically moved into being a center for child development, where we offer services for child development as well.
Thank you, Manish. I think the enormous amount of work, that it must have gone into creating each of what you do, right? And a lot of acceptance at the early stage. So, I'm just very wanting to understand, where these two worlds came together. That you had a personal challenge, that you had to face a personal challenge, you had to accept it, process it, give that child your whole, and then move it into a larger purpose. How did you navigate that whole bit for yourselves?
I think for me, it was mainly, I think that acceptance and the support of my husband. He stood by me like a rock. So that actually helped me to move forward, to take the next steps and go ahead.
Right.
So for me, for us rather, it was an at-birth diagnosis. We had no clue that this was coming, at us. I remember those moments of being told, that your child, shortly after birth should have been the most exhilarating, joyful moment. You were given this diagnosis at birth, soon after his birth, and so it was like you were being literally, like I'd describe it as being being stabbed. Literally, it was like I can't be hearing this. So it was hard. Those early days were hard, but as Vaishnav said, acceptance was a big one for us. I mean, we said, what are we going to do? Here's our baby. We can either, move on, find out more that we need to find out, how to give him the best life, and accept and enjoy him. And I think that's what we did. And I think very soon after he was born, we sent out a very happy birth announcement, announcing the fact that he had Down syndrome. And I think just people took their cue from us. I think just the fact that we were celebrating his arrival, kind of literally
ensured
that was the way everybody around us reacted as well. And I think that's just been the way we've kind of navigated it. Yeah.
I completely echo what you've just said. Exactly, it's carbon copy, and I feel you. That's what happened when we found out at 5 months. I felt like I was hit by a bus. Because I was at my anomaly scan, and the doctor didn't even have to tell me. I could see it, because typically that's a 3D scan, so you can see what's happening. And I completely, like, there was a moment where I just blanked out, and of course there was tears and all of that. But then you find the strength, and we also said we have to celebrate this baby. This baby is going to be loved 110%, and there are no two ways about it. And that's when I also started looking for support groups. And at that point in time, there were very few, specially catering to cleft lip and palate moms and dads. But what I did find out was an early announcement is very helpful for the family, for the friends to actually be supportive. So when you share that information, you're already creating a community for your baby and yourself to fall back on. So we were very clear that, we asked for privacy as well. We also shared the news, and we had decided to celebrate her and welcome her. And so the acceptance happened at that level. But then there was just this shift of what can we do next? Let's find out what is the path, what is the blueprint of navigating this, and that's how the journey started. Yeah,
it's incredible. I mean, it gives me goosebumps when I kind of even hear you people recount this. So, what is it that you dip into? Like, what is it that you dip into that gives you that? I completely, am with you when you say, you processed it and go out there and. But if there was one moment that you had to bring it down to,
I think for me it was just allowing myself to break down completely and then rebuild. I was okay feeling everything negative, everything dark, from blame to everything. I just let it out. It just purged out of my system, and I decided not to blame myself for the words that were coming out, for the emotions that were coming out. It was okay. And it was almost like a cleansing that happened, and I'm getting goosebumps as I tell you this, because I'm able to articulate it now. After 9 years, I'm able to articulate it now. At that point in time, I didn't know what I was doing. I was lost. But allowing myself to just feel it. So even if I was, for example, I remember I called up my mom and dad, I called up my in-laws and friends, and I said, this is what is happening. You are going to have to accept this baby, and you are going to, but that was me. I think I was just, acting out and, going through the motions. And then when I was by myself, it was raw, and allowing myself that the space to express however ugly it got for me, I think allowed me to then rebuild myself. So it was okay for me to feel that. Now, after 9 years, I can say that. Maybe 5-6 years ago, it would have been different.
Thank you, Nameeta. Yeah. Thank you for even sharing that. Thank you.
If I can just add on what you were asking, what is it that makes us feels so inclusive, even without knowing what inclusivity means at those stages. I think it is the values and beliefs we are raised with. And in my case, if you're asking about that one moment which was defining in, choosing motherhood or this, it was May 2nd, 2012. That week, I realized I was having another child. I realized my son was having autism. And after a big fight and a lot of follow-up, I got my job back in my office. So I was sitting in this induction, knowing I'm going through this induction, but I will not even be here for 6 months. So, taking that call, whether you want to go through it. But then I told myself, we'll take it one day at a time. One day at a time. I had decided to join this office. I'm joined. Okay. I've made plans for the first child. I've made plans for the second child. Let me take it one day at a time. And the beauty is we make a lot of presumptions about how people will think. No, office was very accommodative. Till the day I delivered, I was working for the second child and it was very accommodative. And at that point, after that, I said, now I will choose motherhood because there are two and they need my time. And I did take my time to say that, now I will choose to give up. Nobody else is going to tell me that I have to give up. I will choose when I want to give up. But I think it was farly driven by the values and beliefs that the child has come, his well-being is more important than my profession at that point of time. But I was very strong that I would get back. And one of the aunts who visited me when I was in bed rest, she said, she was a dean of a medical college. She said, you know what, Sudha, I know you. You cannot sit idle in the bed like this. Study. And that's when she put the idea in my head that start studying. And that's when I started studying about autism and it went on for years after that. So you just have to take it one day at a time. And if you go with what you believe in and the decision is yours, I think you will own it up. And you should not allow anyone else to make your decision.
It's a self journey and process that we will, like in any motherhood journey, I think, right? Yes. We just have to go through the process.
Yeah. So if you say one moment, I think for me, it was that moment where I needed to choose between, I had two children and Jehan is my second one. And my whole plan was that I'll have two kids in succession and I'll go back to the job that I loved. And that's when life came to a standstill and I needed to kind of choose, what am I going to do? I need to devote time to my son, which I did. And after spending 6 years of my life with him, that's a crossroads that I came to. Now, do I go back to my well-paying job where I will not spend much time with the family, or do I change paths and, kind of go into the field of speech and hearing? So I think that was a challenging time, but I weighed the pros and cons and I felt that I would get a lot more satisfaction serving other families. So that's how I stepped into the field and I studied further.
Yeah. So for me also, Kritan was diagnosed when he was 2.5. My son, he's intellectually disabled and he had certain milestones which were a little slow behind this thing bar, but he was managing them. And all the pediatricians and everybody said, it's fine, boys bloom late. His speech was not coming at the pace it was supposed to, but it was there. And at 2.5, he had his seizure. And that time I was working and he was with his nanny. And the moment I came back, she said, I can't take care of this child because he has epilepsy. Because they're from village and they understand it better. He had it earlier also, but his seizures were very brief and nocturnal and we thought it's just a bad dream, it's just passed by. And that was the time we took him to pediatric neurologist and he was diagnosed with seizure disorder. And he started his play school very soon. And 1 week into play school, his teacher, very experienced teacher, Miss K. Dalal, she called me and she said, your son needs you more than anybody else. You'll have to take a call regarding your job and, taking care of him. It was a very tough call for me at that time. But I just, that very same evening, I put in my papers, and my family was very supportive. My in-laws and all were there. They said, you want us to stay back? We'll take care of him for some time. Give it a try. Maybe you'll be able to manage. And for us, it was like we always had this thing that he'll catch up. He'll catch up because he didn't have that diagnosis of autism or Downs or something. We always tried to, I said, no, I have to work with my child so that he's in the race with others and he'll catch up. He's a late bloomer. But yes, I decided to quit, and but I feel it was such a lovely decision because 5 years down the line, the younger one arrived. And I enjoyed every bit of his childhood. And I have no regrets whatsoever. These both growing up together and enjoying each and every moment, which I missed with Kritin because I left him with my help when he was very young. He was 5 months or something, and I missed out all those lovely, things. So, and slowly the acceptance started coming in, and I saw my younger one doing things at much faster pace than I realized. Yes, this is the baby who will take his time, and it's fine. We're fine with it. So it took us a lot of time to accept. The denial was there for very long because I don't have these labels. My son is just a little slow. And yeah, so he was called a slow learner by all the doctors and all. And we always were running, but slowly it settled, and I'm so glad I took that call. And yeah.
I actually honestly feel a little shallow asking the questions I am. So I think, you need to help me.
Yeah, I was going to say
sorry.
No, that's okay. She got a flash in my eye. But I was just saying, for us, it was the opposite. Mihan had a diagnosis at birth. And in fact, when you have that diagnosis, the diagnosis itself tends to be quite limiting, at least in what you believe will be possible with a child who has Down syndrome, right? Yes. You're kind of like branded in a sense. But we also, as parents, decided that, okay, we're going to just do what we would do with any other kid. And we kind of exposed him to everything. We read books to him like we were reading to our daughter. We read books to him. We still read to him, by the way, at a level that one may not have thought he was capable of understanding. We exposed him to all kinds of things that somebody may have thought this is not going to be possible for a child with Down syndrome. And what he couldn't do, he left. And what he could, he kind of really moved ahead with. So we kind of had the opposite situation where we were now
thinking that there is not
being limited by the diagnosis. And I think that's really held us in good stead as far as his development goes, because we've kind of there was a recent media campaign that says don't assume, like presume competence, and if he doesn't manage to do that, that's fine, but don't not expose him to things because you just assume that he may not be able to do it. So he's actually surprised us.
Can you just list out his achievements, Manisha?
No,
please. He plays tennis. He plays.
No, he doesn't play tennis, but he like, for example, the Rubik's Cube, right?
Rubik's Cube.
Rubik's Cube is something that I would have thought a kid that can't really manage very basic math, how is he going to be able to solve the Rubik's Cube, right? It's very multi-layered in terms of visual problem solving.
Algorithms. So many algorithms go in solving.
He said when we bought him his Rubik's Cube, we said, look, let him try. Then my husband Rajneesh taught him some first and second layer. Third layer, he has gone ahead and looked up some YouTube video, which honestly I would not be able to understand how to do it and follow the steps. But he taught himself, and he now solves the Rubik's Cube, which we would have thought was impossible. And had we just not
given him that option,
he would not have been able to prove that he could do it, right? I mean,
So things like that, just the fact that he's, been able to play a piece of
Golf.
Oh yeah, golf.
Yeah. I used
Yes.
tennis by mistake. It was the golf.
He
Yeah.
doesn't have great, his motor skills are not that great, but again, he has been able to again achieve far beyond what we would have dreamt. He's very persistent, so that helps. But I'm just saying that just giving lots of opportunities
Not
and
limiting
not
ourselves
limiting
in our
exactly
head
what
itself,
what we think he could
in the
have achieved.
acceptance
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so important. Yeah. Thanks. So I think now we just quickly touch upon 3-4 aspects that might help a larger, wider audience as well. The reason why I'm looking at you, because I think neuroplasticity is something that I read up in what you had shared with me, and I found that it was a new terminology for me. Pardon me for it, but I would just like to understand what it means and how does it impact children, and from what age does it start impact?
Sure. So neural plasticity is basically the ability of the brain to reorganize itself, especially when children are little. The neural networks, the brain is very, very plastic, very malleable. So the more inputs and information we give at an early age, the more it can reorganize itself. So if there are certain windows, and I'll just talk about how 0 to 2 years particularly is when the brain is literally like a sponge. The inputs that you give, it just absorbs it, and then you have better results. So the neural networks which are in the brain are around 2000, but by the time the child is about between 2 and 3, it goes to about 15,000. So early intervention, therefore, is the most important. And I would say for any parent with a diagnosis, do not wait. Go out and do whatever you can as early as possible so that you can take care of the plasticity of the brain to be able to take your child forward.
Okay. And are there specific development windows? Are there specific time periods when these interventions should happen? So that you...
in terms of autism, at least, autism itself, it's a different wiring of the brain. That's how they would talk about it in general. But neuroplasticity is the thing we are targeting to improve the experiences of these autistic children. So definitely, as she said, very early on, if one can accept, you can tap into this neuroplasticity, So what happens is they have a different kind of a network they are forming in terms of sensory processing, in terms of, anything educative which they are learning. It is getting wired differently than the others. So the early on, you can rewire and say, start thinking this way. And then it starts, building in those networks. It is far better results for us in terms of social development and all of that. So definitely earlier the better. I mean, when my son went through a diagnosis, I think by the time we actually diagnosed, he was 2.1 or something. But nowadays, I myself have handling children less than 2. The diagnosis is happening earlier, even earlier than 2. And I can definitely see that if the child comes in before 2, in 1 year, we do the entire education and the parents are hands-on and the child is in the learning environment. He has understood how to learn. So once you put him in that pathway to learning and then you teach the parents how to teach him, you can step back and let it happen. So it's much easier to do. Less than 2, less than 4, still easier. As the age goes, it gets a lot more rigid. Still, it is possible. The neuroplasticity works through life. But it gets a little more rigid because they have formed experiences and they are believing in those experiences and you're going to challenge them, and then it gets a little more difficult to change it. But in autism, it works wonderful. If I can also mention, I'm also a Waldorf education trained teacher In that, they talk heavily about how you have to bring the child in the learning environment, 0 to 7, how much can happen and what all domains to target. And then you will see that after 7, you just start talking about the other facets, and you're pretty much physically building the child in all areas by before 7. So I would say less than 7, do your best. And the best thing to do is please accept it early. That's the starting point. If you accept it early, everything happens automatically. So, yeah.
How is the development windows in your journey, Nameeta?
So 0 to 1 physically is very important, and early intervention when we talk about speech, for example, doing a lot of oral massages, because honestly speaking, breastfed children do have that, they have to work.
Yeah.
So the muscle, the tone, all of that is getting formed. So, which is why, at least, and this I'm saying because I worked with an IDCLC person to help us out in our journey. She said, just do a lot of massaging around the face, literally like pull the tongue sometimes and use your hands, the gums, all of that. And a lot of breath work exercises, as a result of which, now I don't have concrete studies to tell you that, okay, this is what has worked for sure. But we've been able to, at every speech therapy checkpoint, we've cleared it.
Wow.
And we've been told that it's a lot of like early intervention that we have undertaken for our daughter, which has helped in shaping her voice journey. So that's.
So it's social, we both of you focus on the social aspect of things. So it's social inclusion and there's acceptance, and very beautifully put by you, Monisha. Is that also an early intervention tool in some form and shape?
Absolutely. I totally believe that it is. My son, when he was little, as a parent who's received a diagnosis early, one tends to, and about the early intervention, which is very important, you are bombarded with this speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, all kinds of behavior interventions. There's just a sea of things out there, and as a parent, you constantly want to leave no stone unturned. So you keep you're on a treadmill, and I think what tends to get left out in this whole thing is the social interaction. As a parent, I had very early decided on that I would limit the therapies, not limit the amount of work that I do with him at home, but I would take home programs. I would go to a therapist maybe once a month, and then check in with them. They would give me a home program, and I would try to integrate it into his daily living activities, so that I could spend a lot of time giving him social time. So lots of play dates. I would literally, I remember at school making individual play dates with every single child in the class, so that they would get one-on-one time with him. He was a kid that speech kicked in late, speech was not clear, but so in a group he was lost. But one-on-one, every kid had the opportunity to get to know him, could develop a relationship, saw him as a human being in the class, not just some kid sitting in the corner. So I felt, and I feel like that kind of social interaction is also very, in a way, therapeutic, because you're learning things from those social interactions. Other people are learning how to deal with you. So you set up loops where people are interacting with you because they've understood you better. And so, it's a very natural thing that I should eventually be co-founding a social app, because I really felt that was a very, very important part of my own son's upbringing, and something that I felt like should be available. And sometimes the idea for the social app is because sometimes you don't necessarily find those connections.
Various life
of course,
stages, people move
Exactly.
on, things like
So
that,
it just felt like every child should be able to play with other kids
I know.
and have lots of opportunities to do that. And so that was.
Yeah. So as a young mom, the first set of people we go to is our parents, our friend circle, our immediate. So how does that network actually work and support? Is that enough? Do we need more?
So the family, of course, plays a very important part. And in our case, both sides of grandparents were very supportive. Even the cousins and everybody, they loved to the core. But unfortunately, in present scenario, there are more of nuclear families and joint families. And my parents and my in-laws were not staying with us. They're in different city. And all the cousins were in different city. So we were left with 4 of us. And younger one also arrived 5 years later. So literally it was 3 of us and the house help. So I feel it's not enough when we say family and social networks. Even in our social network, as we were discussing earlier, people, we all married at the same age, we all delivered babies at the same time. Now, when you are sitting in a setting and somebody else's baby is doing something really nice, singing a poem, and your child is having some meltdown, people are looking at you and it's like as if you've done something wrong. You have not trained your child well. The other mother is so proud, they're beaming, the parents, and you are feeling like, where did I go wrong? And especially when you don't have any, diagnosis of that kind. So I felt I started cutting off myself from that group because I felt very uncomfortable. Sometimes I was being questioned about how much time I'm spending with my child and what techniques I'm using, and
Oh God.
or probably I was working. So because we both are outside the home all the time, maybe that's trickling on to the baby. So it was a very, very tough time. That is why when we decided to go in for a second child so that he'll have somebody of his own to play with, and it worked very well for us. And they do help. I won't say they don't, but they are not... they don't mean it that way, but the questions they ask sometimes, they hurt you. They want to help, but they don't know how to ask. So there was lack of awareness. My son is 23 now. Now things are getting better. There are more awareness things happening. So they would come and blatantly ask, can he talk? Can he walk? Even now, till he was 18, I have people coming, oh, he's talking. I said, yeah, when did I say he's not? Because they assume things. They assume. And so I feel we need to have a very strong community of mothers or families who are going through this journey. That is how I started this venture, Special Hangout. I didn't start it as a venture. It was just for a very personal need for me, for my son. But we grew in leaps and bounds, that too organically, because there was a deficit, there was a gap in this area. And the mothers, they felt when they came in, we had started like a play date for children, a very unstructured thing. And I realized mothers all got together and they were chit-chatting and kids were playing on their own. And few other kids joined them who were playing football on the ground. And they said it is such a big emotional support system for them. They were looking for something like this. I remember a mother messaging from Delhi saying, today's my daughter's birthday. There's nobody in our house. Me and my husband, we're sitting with the cake. We want to invite her friends and have a birthday party. I don't know how to. Can you help us? But here we are having birthday parties, big parties. We are having all these
through Special Hangouts.
Through Special Hangout also. So we need the community. We need to form our own, we need our own circle. We talk about inclusion. I'm not against inclusion, but inclusion has to come naturally. We can't take our child and put them, with a group like, include him now. They are not equipped. The children are not equipped. The parents are not equipped. So we have to create that sensitization. We have to create awareness. But when in our celebrations, now we are not having so many birthday parties. Earlier we had lots. So we would throw open invite. For my son's birthday last time, I got 150 People saying we would like to attend, we will attend, and they attended. Even without knowing my child. They don't even know him. So I had to break it into 2 groups. Because I couldn't handle 150. 150 plus caregiver. So 300 people I couldn't handle. But I was so happy with the love he got. So it's important where your child is seen, heard, loved naturally. Not because, acha, my friend's son, he's come for this, bacha, please play with him. I've had moments when, my son was not welcome, I was not welcome. In his own birthday party, I had called a group of children. We were in Russia, so there were not many people, not many friends. We had limited group, and I invited them. I had big plans. It was a jungle theme party, and there was no help. I did everything from decor to food to cake. Everything was on me. I was so excited. And the moment the first gang comes in, the children, one child just said, "Oh my God, I'll have to be here with him for some more time." And it was his birthday, my son's birthday. I just broke down. I ran inside and my husband was shocked. He said, "What happened? What happened? Come out." And I said, "Just cut the cake and send them off. I don't want any party happening here." So we've gone through that, and we've gone through like 300 guests coming for his party. So it's important that we have our community, and yeah.
I think you bring such a valid point on reverse sensitization. Has that changed in the last couple of decades? The reverse acceptance, the reverse sensitization?
I think it has. I would say definitely. I mean, I'm seeing my son is almost 28. I'm seeing a lot more awareness now amongst people, a lot more acceptance, a lot more, I think maybe social media brings it on, but there is a lot more than there was before, for sure.
I agree with what she's saying. There's a lot more awareness. So when, of course, I understand completely what they went through. My way of dealing with this was that I invited only those whom I felt would understand my child. I never invited anyone else. I was very particular that, and it's only after his 11th birthday that he started bringing his own friends. He asked me, "Can I invite so-and-so for my class?" I said, "If they're willing to come, please go ahead, invite." And this birthday, he had about 8 of his classmates coming in for a movie date with him and going out and having pizza. Because in Autism journey, I knew he was going to take a journey upward. And I had to wait it out. I didn't want to feel low. One of the things I did was I completely cut off social media till I was ready for it. I came out of Facebook, whatever that was. And again, I went back when I was ready. It's not like I didn't go back. So for me, I knew I was aiming for a day when he will have friends, but there is a path to it. So I invited only family and very close friends of ours for his birthday till his 10th birthday. Only from the 11th birthday, friends started coming. And I was okay with it. That's the way I dealt with it. So.
And those were people he went and picked out, and
he asked, "Can I invite people?" I said, "Go ahead and invite." Yes or no, he was ready to deal with the emotion by then. And surprisingly, they came. So it was nice. And this birthday was actually one of the most memorable ones he has ever had. So for us, it was a long wait. And that's what I said. The patience is what I learned, that it will happen. It's going to be a long journey. You have to wait it out.
So coming back to this early intervention, immediate intervention process, do you want to, bring our focus into something in specific?
Yeah, so in terms of hearing and speech, so basically what happens is that the ear is fully developed in the fetus by the 20th week of gestation. So when a child is born with a hearing loss, there is already deprivation in utero. So therefore, early intervention is really crucial. In India, unfortunately, we still don't have newborn hearing screening like in the developed countries. We are really pushing for newborn hearing screening because abroad, children are screened at day 1 or within the first week. audiological management and testing is done in the next month, and hearing aids are fitted in the third month, and therapy is started. Here, because we don't have that, children are diagnosed much later. It could be 2 years, it could be 3 years.
That long, is it?
And then the intervention process is then much later. Like she spoke about the critical windows. So for speech and hearing, the most important is 0 to 2. That's the most critical, where if the child is intervened at that age, fitted with hearing devices or hearing aids or cochlear implants, therapy is started, they will be able to pick up on their academics, their literacy skills, and reach their full potential. Whereas if they are diagnosed later, it's all rehabilitation. So you're rewiring the brain. So therefore, I would say early intervention, early detection, and early intervention is.
Has it come
crucial.
into play in India now? Is it?
So it's yet not mandated across India. We've been working towards, working with different organizations, government, etc., to mandate it. It is in play in certain states, but it's more or less just on paper. It's not actually being done. So we really, really need to push for that.
If I mean, just add, even for autism, you can easily, there is this checklist that they give along with the vaccination. So, they can crawl by this time, they'll walk by this time. It will be great if you can include saying, some social cue understanding, which you can actually spot by 1.5.
Like, Sudha?
Like, the baby learns to imitate very quickly. So when you come like this and you carry the baby, right? So very soon they start doing that, lift me, right? So if the baby is not doing that at a particular age, you can obviously start seeing that social communication not getting through, or not being able to imitate, or not actually being able to observe another person and learn from him. These things can be spotted, and probably there is a very nice checklist they can include along with the vaccination sheet, even for social communication, which is the core deficit of autism. So, and then you can do a lot more. You can do beautiful things, because if you can help the child at 1.5, by the time he comes to kindergarten, he is going to be doing wonderfully better, wonderfully well with other children, and then you are playing less the catch-up game, like she said, So acceptance comes first for all of that.
But acceptance also means knowing the underlying issue or underlying problem statement, right? If we don't have a checklist or we don't have a way to monitor, then
pediatricians are able to help now. If your pediatrician is a good one, they are able to diagnose before 2. And why not give that to the parents also, because they are with the child the whole time, and they may be able to give better information to the pediatrician to be able to assess. So, and autism, as you will know, from 1 in 120, when my son was diagnosed, today it is 1 in 36, which is like it's growing too fast. So why not help by early diagnosis? When they said 1 in 36 and the number came out year before in August in US boys, that's the number which is documented well, and that effectively means 1 in every classroom.
Correct.
So 1 in every classroom is coming to be autistic soon. We can really help them a lot, and you can reduce the cost the parent is going to incur later by doing an early diagnosis.
I want to just add to what you said. So I think I agree with you. So even in terms of newborn hearing screening, if that is added to the checklist for along with the vaccination chart, that has your child been screened, and not just a tick. If there is a refer, has the child been re-screened? So putting that in, I think, would be crucial. And not just the parental cost, but the government. Today, the government is giving free cochlear implants. The government will actually reduce their own costs of cochlear implant and the rest of it if the child is intervened early.
Beautiful. Yeah, right.
Yes,
Very
just
valid.
wanted to add that.
almost like a drive against so many other things that the government chooses to do, right?
Absolutely.
Like maybe bring in the awareness.
So Mihan was born in Singapore and he had an at-birth hearing test. He was diagnosed with not being able to hear at that point. They figured that it was fluid in the ears. I mean, literally, you could bang a thali next to him and he would not flinch. For him, it was a conductive hearing loss. So he had his first set of tubes put in at 6 months old, and had we not done that, his speech would have
got impaired,
and he would have not been able to,
identify. I mean, the development journey.
Speed, and then they would have thought that the fact that he's not speaking is due to the Down syndrome. So there were like further complications, which were so sorted out just by doing that simple hearing test was such an important thing for us to have done. And because he had this conductive hearing loss which continued, we signed with him because we knew that he couldn't speak due to muscle issues, but we kind of signed with him till the speech kicked in. So we had like open lines of communication, which was as important to do if he couldn't speak, he should have at least had a way of communicating. So till he was about 2.5, 3, we signed and spoke. And he had a full thing of signs. I remember he used to say more. Like that. But all down to that at-birth hearing test, which was so important. And things are better now, but that was an important thing for us to have done.
I think one common thread in the discussion today is, how each of you have navigated from this is a personal journey, I have to solve this personal problem, for it to making it a larger cause and deciding to give back. Okay, and I think that's the most humbling part for me. And I would really like to understand from each of you how that transition happened and how you decided to do it for a much larger community and purpose.
So personally, for me, I have a little bit of a struggle accepting the fact that this is for a larger community, because at that point in time when this journey started for me, for us rather, it was something that we lived, and it was kind of also backed by a skill that I had. So I have been a communication designer, brand consultant with, interest in product, for example. So when we went through this frustration almost of feeding this baby and not knowing, because she was just having 5 ml of milk and then graduating to like only 30 ml of milk up until 6 months, 8 months. That's when, I realized that there is a gap in the range of products that are available in the market that specifically cater to cleft babies. Like, there was nothing there. There were 2 bottles that were phenomenally expensive because they were not available in India, and we were lucky to be able to have ordered them from friends and family. But this is a thought that came to me after my daughter had already had her surgeries and she was well on her way to feeding
normally
by herself.
Yeah.
And I still remember me and my husband were just sitting and chatting, and I said, it shouldn't be this hard. Why was it so hard? I mean, we have to be able to have control over feeding this baby. And then that's when I still remember that night, and we were watching Shark Tank, okay? And that's when I said, ooh, I think I have a business idea. And that's how it started. But honestly, I had no clue that it would make its way to get its acceptance, whether it is with doctors, because they were so helpful, all of Tara's team, her medical team, because then I went back to them and I said, I'm toying with the idea, will you help me out? And then reached out to all kinds of contacts for legal, and then it took me down the path of government grants and patents and things like that. And then eventually the bottle made it through to um, foundations and hospitals. And I think that was the journey.
So for me, my son went to an inclusive school. He had lots of friends growing up in his class. And I kind of anticipated a time when a lot of his friends are going to go off on a different path from him. They were going to go off to university and college, and he was going to follow a different path. So in anticipation of this, I said, he's going to feel this vacuum. I'm going to start looking actively for friends for him. And literally looked around, looked for some, just asked around people, put up something on various Facebook pages, really didn't get any response from anyone. And I said, there's got to be some platform where I can find, friends for him. Didn't find one. And then our pediatrician, a developmental pediatrician, introduced me to Gopika, who's my partner in Buddy Up Network. And her son and Mihan met and they clicked. And watching their friendship, just having that one-on-one sort of friend, one friend that you can call up and they're available to you, and was life-changing for them. Just to have someone to go out to coffee with, to for him to go for a sleepover to. And we just saw how magical having, a strong personal friend was. And we said every, young person or old person, or everybody needs to have this in their lives, right? I mean, and because we knew that, for people with any kind of neurodiversity, sometimes these things become harder because they may not have the same social opportunities to meet the friends that they want to hang out with. We just felt like this having a platform would enable something like this. So just seeing their friendship and what it did for them kind of was the inspiration behind, we have to take this, make this available for other people. And that was sort of where the idea was born for us. So yeah.
Wow.
So for me, as I said, I have two boys, and as they were growing up, when younger one reached his teens, now he had he started going out for movies and lunches and dinners with his gang, and that is when Kritan would ask me, when will I go? Can you call my friends? He had friends, but he was in a special school, so they were from all over Mumbai. So get people from suburbs for a movie date, and that too every week or twice a week was not possible. And I tried. We became very good family friends also, and we would have trips together. We'll go for movies, we'd celebrate birthdays together. But that having that independence of going out without the parents was not happening. And also, while growing up, in our society, there was a group of children who would play down every day. And when Kritan would go and play, he was being bullied, and because he would not understand the rules, and so it was somewhere spoiling younger one's friendship also with his peers. And I didn't want that to happen. As it is, the sibling goes through a lot when you have a person with disability in your family. So I didn't want him to suffer on that part, and I always told my younger one, you go down and play, and Kritan, you stay with me. I'll play with you, or I'll call my helps children, and they would all play a carom or ludo or something. And this boy would sit in the balcony and look down on that whole gang of children playing. It would break my heart, but being a mother, I had to make this decision because they were all his school friends also. Then my younger one would be bullied in the bus, or his brother does like this or that. It was a very hard call. And it was in 2022, I'd lost my mother, and I was quite in a dark space. Yeah, and my younger one was in his teens, that adolescence years. I did not know how to handle the whole situation. My husband is in Indian Navy. He was posted in Delhi, so I was left alone with these two boys and my own grief. That is when I just thought, I'd always put them in all the sports classes together. I never, stopped him. He went for skating, he went for swimming, he went for taekwondo, everything possible. And but as they grew up and they stopped all those fun hobby classes, and there was nothing for my son to go out. And then I just with another mom, I floated the idea, and we sent out a message in the school group. We want to 4-5 moms, let's meet up and let our children be together, and they can play together. And then I searched for a place. Fortunately, a school gave their space. We started with 5 children who just were looking for somewhere to go in the evening, because nobody invites them as often, and it is difficult. Even if somebody invites as a mother, I would be very anxious. Okay, now he's gone to this one's house. What is he doing? What is he doing? I was never at peace. But with mums all going together, and it was lovely. We started with 5 to 6 kids and mums, and as I said, it grew organically. And they all have friends now. My son, he fixes up his play dates with his aunties on the phone. Let's go and play cricket tomorrow, and then a session is set. So without even my knowledge.
Wow.
So that is happening now, and yeah, it's been 2 years, and the journey has been beautiful. The gap was there, and the mums do come and tell me we so needed this kind of platform.
And hearing it from you, I mean, Ritu, is so impactful, very honestly. And really, thank you for sharing.
I think I resonate more with her. So my journey was, I used to go into those therapy sessions. From what the research was showing that it was possible, then when I see the sessions going on, it felt like they didn't believe in my child as much as the research believed and I believed. So if the research says that developmentally he can grow beautifully, if you do it right, you have to do so much to be aware of, I didn't see it happening on the ground. So I said, I'll do it myself. So I really did not have any therapist in his life beyond the first few years. It was fully done by me and my husband through a program guided by a person called Carol Subramani. She comes from an RDI program in US. She learns there. She teaches us, and we do it with the child. So for a very brief period, school insisted, so we went for OT to a person. That's all. So since we were practically doing it for so long, I think parents noticed. They noticed a change in the child first in school, and then they asked around, and then somehow they found, and they started coming home asking, can you please teach us? Can you please teach us? So for me, it was like, I'm teaching. And one night I remember a parent came and I was talking, it became midnight, and I missed my flight the next day. And then my husband said, randomly people are coming, you are going on teaching, you are giving gyan. Is there any structure to this? Do you even go back and check if they are doing something with the knowledge you are giving? You are spending hours and hours. Are they doing something, or they are just coming and sharing something with you and going, and just you don't even know if they are listening to you properly? So put a structure around it. My husband was very firm that you do it right. So since I had anyway studied my master's in education and guidance counseling, and I was doing the master's in psychology, I was like, I can do it in a much more professional manner. So COVID struck, and we realized, let's do a structure to this. So we started shooting in our room itself, exactly like how we used to play with our child. But when I went back and asked Carol, what is that gap because of which we were able to do, but other parents you're coaching are not able to do? She said, theory to practice. Theory is available everywhere. Not everybody is able to convert it to practice. So if you work something around that, it may help parents. So we shot about 120 videos in that small half of this room to show a demo as to how to do it. And since autism is a spectrum, there are very low functioning, very high functioning. So we had to show that if you play a ball, how do you play it with a very low functioning child, and how do you play it different with a higher functioning child? And then we shot the same ball play video for low functioning across 10 different stages. We showed how to do. You cannot play the same manner with, so if a therapist goes and say play ball with your child, it doesn't end there. You have to tell him how to do it. You just don't say play ball with the child, because obviously the parent knows how to play a ball. He's not able to play ball with an ASD child, so please tell him how to play. So that is what we wanted to work. So we shot it, we made courses with it, and that is what we teach. And a very wise friend of mine said, you know what, all these courses are all there, but parents will not come to these courses and learn unless you put in a service and you are physically present. I said, okay, once in 15 days, you buy a course, you get time with us. We'll give you time, we'll guide you. So the group comes in there are 10 different stages. I call it freedom, I don't like to call it stages. So I said 10 different freedom courses. And for every freedom course, we come in every 15 days to answer question and answers, whatever you've learned in the course, what you tried, what you could not do, share with us. So every 15 days we go in and we talk to them. So this is what we do. And it honestly came because parents started walking in and it was getting a little too much. So we wanted to put a structure around it, and then it became a lot better. We were able to manage the more parents coming in a more structured manner. So that's how it came. It was very organic. It was not too planned. Honestly, we were just doing something and then slowly it grew into a product.
Your engineering and MBA mind also.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe. I was a computer science engineer, and my sister often makes fun. You did computer science engineering? I'm like, I'll do something. So
today you're right there.
Okay, now you know how to manage the app also, so you do it. So yeah, it takes time. That's what I said. Things didn't happen in the timeline that I had set for myself. But as a family, we had a different timeline, and in that timeline, it is happening. So
for me, working with my son, because he has a profound sensory neural hearing loss. At that time, in 97, there were analog hearing aids available, which means that the hearing was just amplified, the residual hearing. So every child who has a hearing loss has some amount of residual hearing. If hearing aids are fitted, that hearing is amplified. So with that amplification, I was teaching him, I was kind of stuck to the ear, because profound hearing loss means he could not hear most of the stuff apart from vowels and diphthongs. So teaching him through the auditory verbal approach, until such time that he had his cochlear implant at 5.5. So for me, it was just to make sure that he was hearing and going into mainstream school. So at 2 years, he went into play school, then into nursery school. At 4 years, he went into big school. But what happened then was the language of the other children at 4.5 just kind of zoomed. And we realized that his hearing and language was plateauing, because there was only that much that the hearing aid could do. It's at that time when cochlear implants came into India for the pediatric population. And so at 5.5, he was implanted on one side. And within 6 months, because of the neural plasticity, because those connections from the age of 3 months to 5.5 were already there in place. They weren't robust, but they were already there in place. And therefore, when we did the cochlear implant, that connection became more robust. And by the time he was 6, he didn't really need me. At that point in time, I had already started a parent support group, because I felt that whatever we knew was being told to us by the therapist, and it wasn't necessary that we needed to follow only what they said. We also had our own knowledge as caregivers, and I needed to make sure that came out as a support group. So we used to meet together once a month and share with each other, and that co-learning started to happen. It's at that point when I realized that I didn't only need to do it for myself, I needed to do it for the community. And then as a professional, when I work with families, I feel that that connect that I have with families is far greater, because I understand them in their journey, and they have a better connect with me, and we kind of, I think, connect at a much deeper level, and I know that I can help them and take them forward. And that's where I think my working with the community is happening. In fact, just yesterday, I met with a baby who was 5 months old, a family. And families are willing to come from far and near just to be able to avail of that service, because they know that it is available, and they have that confidence that she will make it happen. So I think for me, it is very, very satisfying and gratifying. I think whenever I meet a new family, or whenever I meet any family where I can make a difference in their lives and the life of their child.
So friends, that was part 1 of the 2.5-hour long discussion I had with these amazing mothers. Usually, we at the We Women Project try to limit our content to a less than 2-hour episode to make it palatable to our audience. But this time, the edits felt like a crime. We wanted to bring the content in its rawest form to the audience, and hence we decided to split it into 2 parts. The second episode will drop on May 16. Until then, we hope you will subscribe to our channel, click on that bell button so that you don't miss our next update. Wishing you all a wonderful and very happy Mother's Day. Thank you so much. This is your host, Vilasni, signing off. So we live in an environment where mental health has become an acute need, priority across sectors and everything. And how do you see the ecosystem today? Where are we on the mental health spectrum? And
Therapy is the key to make the child learn to listen and talk.
I just wonder how did I do it? I think when the thing is presented in front of you, you just do. You do what needs to be done. I don't know where that strength comes from.
Autism education itself, people see it like, is this required? I am trying to raise a pillar for a house, which people think is not required, and I'm trying to say, 4 pillar hai therapy, वो ठीक है. Center में एक और support कीजिए ना, पूरा 4 अच्छा खड़ा होगा. Let's just put that pillar in the middle and make it a little stronger as autism education.
Yes, the regulations, compliances of forming a company and then handling it's quite a lot, but we are looking at the bigger picture. We want to reach to larger audience, and for that funding is required.
When we first found out, I said, why me? And now, and I remember this moment so distinctly. I said, why not me? Why not me? Yes, I can do it.
If there's a mom watching this at this point of time, overwhelmed with the diagnosis or overwhelmed with the situation, what is it that you will have to say to her?